Yes, indeed. All you need to do is drop a beat, and we're ready to come to the aid of the WNBA. WNBA. We're here today to save your league because it's trash. Here we go. Oh, yeah. So anyway, yes, we're going to be talking about the WNBA today. And if you're a WNBA player or you're anyway associated with the WNBA, this probably will not be your episode today. I'm just going to go ahead and put a fair warning out there. Look, I always tell parents if there's an episode that's not suitable for the kids, so I just think it's only right of me to tell people that if you're a lover of the WNBA, the W as they call it, the league, the fighting Caitlin Clarks, the fighting Kelsey Plums,
the fighting Brittany Griners.
Hey, if you're part of that whole society that's out there, except for Caitlin Clark, you're probably not going to like this episode that we do here. It is the way forward. And so I'm asking myself a question. I'm going to bring Jason on here. Here, Newton, hey, help me out. We can't be doing hip hop the whole time. Turn this off. Yeah, you got to turn the speakers down. I'm asking Jason, I'll get him on here very quickly to ask him this question. What in the world does the WNBA going on strike have to do with how you and I live our Christian life and how we more closely follow Jesus Christ? What's up, Jason?
Hello. I don't know. This could be testing our sanctifications, what this could be doing.
Well,
yeah.
You know, I've got an answer to that question, my friend.
Love everybody.
I've got an answer to that question. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm so glad that you guys could be a part of this experience today because I think this is one of those proving grounds, right, Jason? We have put out a topic that is going to be popular or unpopular. It doesn't make any difference. We didn't have to deal with this topic today. We could have gone on to Iran. We could have gone on to Trump. We could have gone on Christian nationalism. We could have gone on to a lot of different things, but we chose the WNBA, a league that both of us have had some serious reservations about throughout the years. And now we're talking about this in the context of how Christians, myself, yourself, ordinary Christians who are just living their lives, going, getting bread, gas, all these different things, how they live their life in a better manner because we're talking about the WNBA today. I got an answer to the question. You quiet.
even a fool seems wise when he keeps his mouth shut. Yep, straight from the Proverbs.
Yeah, there you go. So this episode will not have as many words because Jason and I'll be going a lot.
Oh, man.
No, I got a lot to say on this topic. I got a lot to say on this topic today. But can you?
Yeah. I'll tell you what. I have a few things to say about the league and Caitlin Clark effect and its political stuff. I got some things. I just got to make sure I stay on the right side of the cross. Because
I love it.
Reservations, and I mean, the WNBA. I don't know. I could get myself in trouble with your wife, with my daughters.
Well, I don't think we're going to get in trouble with anybody today. I'm going to go out on a limb and say nobody is going to disagree with what it is we have to say. The comment section obviously is on. Like whoever Mona Lisa is here, I don't know who this was, but I put the comment on the screen. Look, people coming in.
Hi.
Amy's. See, look, the ladies are tuning in today.
They want to hear about the WNBA.
Hey, ladies. Y'all jump in this comment section today.
Yep.
Pray for us. Pray for us, Bishop.
Lord, thank you for today. Thank you for this opportunity to talk, even about the WNBA. And just help us, Lord, be productive and constructive. And, of course, Christ honoring. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right, let me get this tag out of the way real quick here, folks. I'll let you guys know. Wrong tag. Let you guys know this is coming by way of the fair use clause. I'm going to be using some non-proprietary material here. So educational purposes, fair use, and it is not copyright infringement. Jason, I'm going to tell you a story here. This is what happened in our home. My wife heard the discussion that we were having about the WNBA a couple of years ago, and she was just painfully offended.
Yeah.
We had a similar discussion to that because she thought that we were unkind. We were very unhelpful in our critique of the WNBA, and that we were just trashing the league, and that we were just trashing the players, and it was just a hit campaign against the WNBA. We had a similar conversation in my house. My daughter, I think my wife, I don't know if my son was around, but we had a conversation, and it got equally as heated. My wife came away saying, you should never talk about the WNBA because this is just going to make you look bad, and people all the different things. And I'm just going to be clear about this. Here's how I got reconciled with my family. I said, I hate the WNBA. Let me be clear about that. I think it's a trash league. I think it's got trash leadership. I think that it's an organization that is siphoning off of the NBA, the actual NBA, in ways that are unproductive and unhelpful. And you've got the Luka Doncic effect going on here. You're perpetual whiners and complainers. However, I'm an advocate for and a supporter of and a friend of women's college basketball. And so they'll see me watching women's college basketball games, and they'll say, wait a minute, we didn't think you liked the WNBA. And I said, that's exactly right. I don't like the WNBA, but I love women athletics. And I love to see it played in its purest form. And I love to see players that are excellent at what it is that they're doing, women players that are excellent at what it is that they're doing without the griping and complaining, because you can't do all that in college. People who are actually playing hard on every possession, because you got to do that in college, who are actually playing the game. Now, Kim Mulkey, she's nutso. But that's even part of the drama of women's college basketball. And so I'm more acquainted with women's college basketball, appreciate it for the game, for the women that play, and for the integrity of the sport. The WNBA is another thing. And so it has been reconciled in my family because
it is. One, college basketball is just fun to watch anyways.
Yes. March Madness, of course, we had to do that.
Also, I went to high school in a community where we had a really good girls basketball team. Mm-hmm. My senior year, they went to state. I think they took second. They were explosive. They were fun to watch, especially under pressure.
Sure.
All of our gyms were packed. Very proud of them. And so this wasn't about, me like hating on women in that, because we loved watching them play basketball. And even since then, the girls have done extremely well in that community for basketball. You're correct to say the WNBA is another beast.
Yep.
It's something else. And I think hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about what that something else is that distinguishes it, that leaves a really poor taste in your mouth. And I think the Caitlin Clark effect exposed the whole thing, personally.
Yeah. Well,
it's already struggling culturally as a league, and when they inserted her into the league, it just erupted, and we got to see all the stuff that we already knew was trash.
Well, since you're referring to the Caitlin Clark effect, let's see Stephen Ace. All right, this is my man Stephen A. Smith. The WNBA has opted out of their collective bargaining agreement, and he talks about a little bit of that Caitlin Clark effect. So let's look at a little bit of this.
Opted out of their current collective bargaining agreement and face the prospect of a work stoppage. The players are absolutely right. They only get 10% of basketball-related income compared to the 50% that the NBA players get. Players citing higher television ratings, attendance figures, franchise values as the reason for opting out. Now, wait a damn minute. Higher television ratings, higher attendance figures. That doesn't come courtesy of a league. It comes courtesy of the players that play in the league. Caitlin Clark, she was the most popular, which means she could have helped your bottom line, which means you should have seen that from day one and maximized it. But you didn't do it. So much so you didn't push for her to be on Team USA. So much so you had people like Cheryl Swoops who didn't even want to mention her name. But if you went the opposite direction, it could have helped that much. and facilitated you being in an even stronger position to get yours.
All right, I'm gonna stop Stephen A. right there because he's spitting facts, spitting knowledge, and y'all jump in the comment section if y'all want to disagree with this. But there's a touch of, and here's one of the issues that I will bring out. There's a touch of racism that I'm just gonna go ahead and put that on the table as it relates to Caitlin Clark and that whole Caitlin Clark effect. So anywhere you want to dive in there, but eventually I'm gonna come back in and talk about racism, actual racism.
Okay. Clark enters the WNBA, 2 years ago? Was that right? Is she on the third year? Okay. The University of Iowa standout. I mean, she shattered like scoring records and probably became the most watched women's player in basketball history, if not the one of the most. And all of a sudden, she gets into the league. Attendance starts surging. Television ratings start to jump up. Ticket prices skyrocketed. Why? Because this girl's a shooter. This girl's a player. They're starting to compare her form, not necessarily her numbers, but her form to that of like Steph Curry. She just pops this three out of nowhere. She essentially what she's bringing is eyeballs finally to the WNBA. Now, historically, when somebody shows up and makes your league dramatically more popular, the normal response should be what? Amen.
Here we go. We about to get paid.
Gratitude. And yet, when this girl enters the league, it's jealousy. And you see these crazy hard fouls. And you have these veterans who are publicly criticizing her. And then some are trying to say that this was, this is veteran versus rookie. That's crap. Dude, when an NBA rookie blows up the league and he comes in, I'm sorry, he gains respect by playing ball. You can do what you want, but at the end of the day, if he plays ball, it's like shut up or put up, right? That's how this goes. And what this looks like, I think you're going to touch on this. Either this is crazy jealousy, because this girl's getting all this hype and all this attention, and it's probably racism, because she's as white as they come. I mean, University of Iowa white.
I was going to say Iowa.
She is white as they come. And she comes in and she blows up the league and she does everything she was doing in college. And she brings all this attention. And what do you get? You get all this nonsense. I mean, from day one. And it's crazy nonsense. And what's crazy is it's coming from all angles, the refs, the players, the coaches, the league. It looked like a show. That's what it looked like.
Yeah. So that effect, Stephen A. is not wrong when he talks about the fact that they didn't push and advocate for her on the women's team. All this ridiculous stuff. Well, she hasn't done enough. She hasn't proved herself. She hasn't been in the league long enough. And then she gets on, I guess, the rest of the has-beens all-star team that is helping Team USA prep for the Olympics, and she busts their tail. And Team USA loses to this team with Caitlin Clark on it. Like, apparently she wasn't very good, I guess.
Oh my God.
Now, you didn't need her to win the gold medal, but man, that sure sent a message that you're not about advocating people who are actually excellent at what it is they're doing. And then this mysterious gaslighting thing starts happening where if she gets a call or she doesn't get a call in a game, or there's some kind of disparity that people want to look at, they want to say, well, she's only getting that because she's white. They want to cry racism when it's the exact opposite of the fact that many of these players who won't say her name, who won't acknowledge what's going on with her, don't like her success because she's white.
And she's good. I mean, she was good to watch. She was electric, and she is electric. I mean, she's still, and I always thought that she held herself pretty well for the most part, even when she was denied USA's a spot in that team. Hey, I'm just here to help my teammates be great and do all this and that. And so the more she, played the game and tried to keep her integrity, the more they lashed out at her. It's the weirdest thing to me, because it's like imagine you own a restaurant, right? And a new chef arrives and suddenly your restaurant becomes like the place to go to.
Yeah.
and your reservations are tripling, and lines are going around the block, and so your response is to stand at the door and tell customers, actually, our chef sucks. And then you bring them out and you slap them around in front of everybody, and then you humiliate him and you send him back in the kitchen. What the hell are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Strategy? That's a marketing strategy. Stephen A is trying to make the point. You showcase this girl, and those who are around her who are competing at her level. You do that. You don't do this, whatever that response was. And so, to me, you talked about poor leadership. This was from the top down. You saw that these people had no idea what they're doing in this league. They could have taken a massive opportunity right here and capitalized on all the popularity she was bringing to the game.
So the question becomes, so why does that matter? We've been critical. We've been talking about Christian nationalism. We've been talking about war. We've been talking about a number of different topics on this show. And we always seem to circle back to leadership. Why does this kind of leadership matter? Because leadership is the window or the avenue or the channel and the direction that organizations travel that makes inroads into culture, inroads into society, makes statements in the context of society. And the leadership has been poor from the very beginning. I was critical years ago of the WNBA because the lesbianism in the WNBA and some of the LGBT type things that the WNBA represents, I didn't think was good for families. I didn't think it was good for business. I didn't think it was good for culture. And those are issues that we're very much a part of having the discussion about. When you're leading in a direction that is away from those foundational cornerstone things, your league just isn't that appealing. And so if you put a product out there that's not very appealing, let's use your analogy. You go to the restaurant and they're like, hey, we make Philly cheesesteaks, but our Philly cheesesteaks aren't very good, but we make Philly cheesesteaks. Well, if I'm going to go and get a good Philly cheesesteak, I'm not going to go to your restaurant because you don't make very good Philly cheesesteaks.
Yeah, but we support the LGBT. We support feminism. We support this. That's why you should come. No, I want a Philly cheesesteak, fool.
Yeah. And so
I don't want your lesbianism. I don't want your LGBT. I don't want all that nonsense that comes with it. I just want my Philly cheesesteak.
It becomes this analogy, and this is maybe where I get myself in a little bit of trouble, but I don't know what I could be fired for that I haven't already been fired from, or maybe not hired from. But it's the analogy of somebody saying, I'm going to pee on your face, but I'm going to try to convince you that it's rain. And then there becomes all of this nonsense of you saying, no, it really is rain. No, I know what you're doing.
Clearly, it's rain.
I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
In all of this comparison of, well, the players are just as good as the NBA players, but they're not getting paid as much. And then Brittany Griner coming out and saying all these ridiculous things. I would beat DeMarcus Cousins 101. He's a little man. And in her deep bass voice, I would beat the players in the NBA. And you're like, you can't even beat the players in the WNBA. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, that just go on YouTube and just do a quick search of how it bodes for these gals who are taking on these Division III players, high school players, out of shape, whatever. It's ridiculous. It's not even a comparison. And I think the guys at the NBA most of them have been pretty humble about
political.
Yeah, political. That's the issue. One of the issues I have with the WNBA is the politics are becoming the product, not the game. And
that's a good statement, Jason. That's a good. So say it again. Say it again.
Politics are becoming the product, not the game. Here's the difference. When somebody says, well, what do you think about the NBA and their politics? One, I think it's a bad idea. And we talked about this before. I just don't think football, NBA, I think they need to stay away from it. And you know what? At the end of the day, they know too, because you go woke, you go broke, and they suffered 20% losses. They're flipping out. But nevertheless, take that at its fair, just all things being equal. The NBA has been around, 75 years or so? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And have built up a league and a product that's absolutely phenomenal. They have a lot more capital and and credibility to platform than this young 20-something-year-old league who hasn't turned a profit yet. So that's
I think
number
they're
one.
at about 30 years now.
Yeah, so that's number one. Number two, when the WNBA decided early on in 96, 97, 98 to start embracing activism, right, more than the game itself, they made a big mistake. Because that's kind of been their niche, is we are an activist league. We're not a shut up and dribble league. We're a speak your mind league. Well, that doesn't bode well for any actually athletics, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because you remember when Michael Jordan was talked about, you vote Republican or you vote Democrat or whatever, and he kind of said something along the lines of, well, Republicans buy Nikes too, or something like that. He was trying to make a point that, hey, look, all kinds of people watch basketball. Black people, white people, Republicans, Democrats, rich people, poor people. I mean, he's known all throughout the world. Probably at one time, he was the most recognizable athlete in the world. And one of the things that kept him there was he focused on basketball. Now, I'm not saying
and being excellent.
Yeah, and being excellent at basketball. I'm not saying that he cannot use his platform for things, ideologies, whatever. But what he was smart was he kept everything focused on basketball. And then he became like the excellence in basketball, which is another conversation, right?
Well, and he was harshly criticized.
Yeah, he was
about that.
But he was smart, and he kept it on basketball. And then on top of that, he backed it up with, I don't know, what was it, 6 championships?
6 championships.
I'm running out of fingers,
folks. 1, 2, 3,
That's
4,
right.
5
championship.
Oh, Kobe, we're dropping you off. We're gonna get one more.
Yeah, and so that's just a whole different league. It's a whole different ballgame. From day one, it seemed like this league went political first and foremost, and that was dumb. I think that was a bad marketing strategy. I think that was a bad decision. They should have focused on their game and their product and making their product better, and they didn't. And so now you've got this, and I think what happens is Caitlin Clark comes into play. I don't know why she was the catalyst for this, but she jumps in the league, and all of a sudden you have all this really bad character showing, really ugly character.
She exposed the league is what she did.
Yeah, she did. She cut it wide open. And he, when Jordan entered the league, and he came in, there's a cool story about him playing. I think it was when he was joining the Olympic team, and you had Magic Johnson, and you had Larry Bird, and you had all those guys, and they come in for a practice, and he just wears them out, right? He just wears them out. There was no racism and bashing or whatever. They just recognize that this young guy can play some ball, and that the league's about to change, because he's one of those catalysts for change in the league, and it did change. And then you have the likes of Charles Barkley, Clyde Drexler, Karl Malone, Scottie Pippen, B.J. John Stockton. You had all these guys just rallying to play the game, and the game became so much better. There wasn't all this nonsense surrounding it. That's what I feel like the WNBA is. The politics are this noise that are it's consuming the conversation more than the product is, and it's ridiculous. And then on top of that, you've got really bad basketball. It's just bad basketball.
It could be better basketball, but the way that it's marketed is alongside and in par of, in the namesake of, the NBA. And they should just tell their players, look, we play women's. See, this is what they can't do. Yeah. This is you and I could fix this league tomorrow. Yeah. The WNBA could be a viable option, an amazing, if they would embrace excellence in what it is that they're doing, because the WNBA quality across the board should be better than the quality of college basketball. I don't know that it always is. The continuity of offenses, the quality of the game, the level of competition, all these expansion teams and all these different things that people are trying to do in the WNBA, that's not working. pare the league down, build the league up, embrace excellence in what it is that you're doing. Stop trying to be activist for everything. Put yourself alongside and subservient to the NBA. Be seen at NBA games. Be seen doing things that put you out there visibly, but without whining about it, without complaining about it. Watch your profit margin begin to grow. Emphasize the stories. Embrace Caitlin Clark. Embrace stories of women who are being women.
Right.
Show mothers
right.
who are sacrificing and using their talent as an NBA player to advance their family. Tell those stories. Begin showing some solidarity for the United States of America. I know the WNBA wants to be a global league. The NBA wants to be a global league and all the different things that are there. But you are based in the United States of America. Embrace some of those things and watch your league and your profit and families and people start coming to the table. Women, young women. But you can't do those things because you've gotten so liberal. You've gotten so activist that it becomes that ridiculous conversation, Jason, that you're watching a Senate hearing where somebody's like, can men get pregnant? What is a woman? I mean, we got a Supreme Court justice couldn't even answer the question, Ketanji Brown. What is a woman? It's the WNBA, the Women's National Basketball Association. What is a woman? So when you get this sort of feminist activism that's out there and this sort of nonsensical, very liberal and progressive agenda, more so than the actual product that you're putting out there, I think you're absolutely right about that. We got to look at another soundbite here. And again,
with that feminism thing, though, here's where I think there's two issues I think that need to be brought up with the feminism. One, feminism has this nasty and wrong idea of always building the criteria of what a woman is compared to a man. So when you talk about be women, right? So this is always, our league will never be anything unless it can do what men can do. Whatever a man can do, I can do better. That's the feminist mantra. That's a bad idea. Because if you just watch an NBA game versus a WNBA game, the dynamics are so different. What men do in basketball versus what women do in basketball are two different games. I saw this in tennis when I played tennis in college. Mm-hmm. The way men play tennis versus the way women play tennis. I played with some very talented women who were very good tennis players. I watched women play very good tennis. The Williams sisters are phenomenal tennis players, but the game is different with men, right? So that's one thing that WNBA is caught up in, that feminism that compares women to men, and the criteria has got to be whatever the men can do, I can do better. Mm-hmm. The other issue it's going to find themselves in is when they are such supporters of the LGBT agenda, which I think is a massive mistake, and they start inviting trans women into the game. What does that become? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. The only way for the WNBA to get better is to invite men into the league as women. They're going to have to wrestle with that question. And they're not going to play up the NBA. They're not going to be able to play that. That's not going to work. What happens when the WNBA decides that they can't define what a woman is, and now you allow trans men or trans women into the league, and you've got that problem, right? This is going to morph into something weird real fast. And then what you're going to essentially watch is a bunch of men dressed like women playing basketball. And so what happens when your top 5 starters are men? They're not women.
I think depending on how long an actual work stoppage or strike goes, this could be the end of the WNBA.
Right.
And I'd be glad of it. But here's Charles Barkley, echoing some of the things that we're saying. Charles Barkley, never a stranger to controversy, Hall of Famer, NBA player, and I think he's going to call some balls and strikes here that we need to pay attention to.
Talking about the WNBA protecting somebody from violence.
No, I thought like, man, these girls getting ready to hit the lottery. I mean, this is a great time to be a woman in the WNBA. Caitlin, I mean, what she's done for the game the last couple of years, she is a shining star. I didn't think she was going to have to worry about all this petty nonsense that's going on. And it's really unfortunate because she's bringing so much notoriety to the game. I watched more college basketball in the last 2 years, women-wise, than I have my entire life. They act like she didn't earn it. They're like, well, she's only getting this shine because she's white. Is race a factor? Yes, race is a factor, but her resume speaks for itself. She just set the record for the most points ever scored. They didn't prop her up just because she was white. Her accolades speak for themselves. And because she's getting endorsements and people are coming to see her, we got this petty jealousness going on, and it's really unfortunate.
All right, Charles Barkley.
I mean, and that's what the Bible calls it, right? It's envy. This is straight up. When I watched all this nonsense, that's the word that comes to mind. I mean, James 3:16, for where jealousy and selfish ambition exist, there will be disorder in every vile practice. I mean, that's what I saw when I watched WNBA, when Caitlin, last 2 years, when I paid attention to it. And he's right. I've paid more attention to the WNBA in the last 2 years than I have in its entire existence. Mostly watching Caitlin Clark and then watching how they respond to her. And the more I watched it, the more disgusted I got, because all I saw was a bunch of women being envious.
And you know, Caitlin Clark, the Caitlin Clark effect exposed the league, because there would be many people, Jason, who would either not watch what it is that we're saying, not listen to what it is that we're saying, or be very critical of our analysis of the WNBA. And they would say, no, the league is not any of those things that you're talking about. But the fact that Caitlin Clark came into the league was not bombastic. She was excellent at what she was doing. She was improving as a player. She brought notoriety to the game. And then the response that came back from that proves everything that we were talking about. You even have commentators. I mean, maybe we're not the most excellent sports commentators that are out there, granted. However, you get people like Charles Barkley, Stephen A. Smith, who know the game, who have invested time, people respect their voice, who are coming out and saying some of these things. It becomes proof positive. And I think the reaction that people had to Caitlin Clark and coming to her defense, it was not even a race thing. I think it's more based in seeing actual jealousy,
right,
and seeing this uneven-handed response to Caitlin Clark, or people saying, all right, here's a gospel narrative that I think we can all pick up on. People are reviling Jesus. They're insulting Jesus. They're coming against Jesus with all sorts of malicious lies and insults, and Jesus says nothing.
Right.
How does he respond that way? How does Caitlin Clark not get her own PR campaign? She has the money to do it, and come out and say, these people are wrong. These people are treating me wrong. People are fouling me, doing all these different things, uneven refereeing. The league is minimizing me. She didn't come out and say any of those things. She suffered, as it were. I don't want to take the analogy too far, but she suffered at the hands of a league that was hurling insults against her. What a biblical principle is that?
Yeah.
Bravo. And I think that's the reason why she had such a dramatic effect on people, is because she wasn't. What's the young lady's name from LSU?
Angel Reese.
Yes, Reese's Pieces. I told my daughter, don't ever. And my daughter's an LSU fan for some strange reason, but I told her, don't ever emulate this lady.
She was a thug at LSU. She ain't no different in the WNBA.
And I know her mama might be watching this today, and I just want to say, you're not responsible once the kids go off to college and they become a quote unquote adult and all these different things. I know you probably, Mama Reese, you probably did, Mama and Daddy Reese, y'all probably did the best y'all could to raise a fine young woman who has manners and is respectable and obeys the authorities and all the different things. I'm quite sure that if Mama Reese is watching this today, my compliments would go to you for raising her the best that you could. Now she's an adult, and so we're going to go ahead and criticize what we see of her now as this sort of thug, kind of model, risque, hooch, complaining, whining. And from what I understand, she doesn't practice very hard, and her game is trash. She'll have 4 points and 16 rebounds because she's just throwing the ball off the backboard. It looks like she's playing ping pong with the backboard. doing, 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 getting the rebounds and just padding her stats. It's awful basketball to watch. And that was the antithesis to Caitlin Clark.
And it wasn't even close. Caitlin Clark, this where race was not a factor. This was just pure talent. And you just look at the numbers, and you look in the game, the smartness, the IQ, how Caitlin Clark, she made the NBA or the WNBA fun to watch by the way she handled the ball and the way she got open, her deep shots, her passing, her court awareness, just knowing where people are, what's going on, taking all those hits, getting back up, persevering. She brought a cool narrative there, right? Even though we're watching this, you couldn't help but pull for her. And at the same time, you're watching Angel Reese become this antagonist that she's feeding into, and she's the emulation of the league's jealousy. And I think that at some level, somewhere, you almost felt like this was nefarious. That like, is the WNBA propping this whole thing up? This is beyond. This is not just rivalry. Like, if you listen to Magic Johnson talk about Larry Bird, it's not the same way as watching Angel Reese talk about Caitlin Clark. Magic Johnson had a tremendous amount of respect, still has a tremendous amount of respect for Larry Bird, to the point where Magic Johnson, I think, even said to some degree that he wouldn't be Magic Johnson without Larry Bird, that their rivalry was intense, that even Magic Johnson's mom would ask about Larry Bird and how he's doing things. Like, it was rivalry because the talent and the competition was intense and awesome and just amazing. But it wasn't like this, I hate you and I'm jealous of you. This was, I'm going to get better and get better and get better. When I watched the Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark thing, it's envy at its core. If Caitlin Clark rises, then I have to take you down at whatever cost. Even if I have to foul you and know that the league's not going to call it. And that's what was insane, was you had these officials who were supposed to be governing the game just buying into the narrative. And look, where are you people? Like, why aren't you protecting? As much as I get on to the NBA about, like, oh my gosh, the calls are insane, at least they protect the shooter, right?
Yeah.
At least they protect the shooter, and they don't. Not in the WNBA, not Caitlin Clark anyways.
Now, we've talked about, and I don't know how much you actually pay attention to the WNBA. There are some excellent players. Asia Wilson, excellent. I have really become a fan of Sabrina Ionescu. Started paying attention to her when she did the 3-point contest against Steph Curry. And they've got some good players. But as a league, please hear us with our criticism of, maybe your commissioner won't want to watch this. Maybe the people who are in leadership, maybe the referees who are complicit in this nonsense, maybe the other coaches and players who are complicit in this nonsense may not want to pay attention to this. But the league has got some excellent players. You can build around these players, but because the structure of the house is not foundationally strong, your league is not going to be strong. It's called the lid of leadership, because the ceiling and potential of your leadership and direction the league is going is only so high. The league can only go so high. There's a cap on the league, and it's not a criticism of all the players, but there certainly has been some wacky stuff that is unnecessary. Got another soundbite here for those that are wanting to get a little bit more into the X's and O's here of what is going on with this collective bargaining agreement with the WNBA. Will it be the end of the WNBA? I'm asking you guys a question. Let's look at a little bit of this.
1212. What's going on, everybody? So it's been a month and a half since I last brought you guys an update on the WNBA situation, so let me briefly catch you up. In my last video, the January 9th deadline had just passed. The players let it expire. There was no extension, no deal, and the league just went into status quo mode, which basically means everything is frozen. Free agency, expansion drafts, all of it. This is all going to go down just while both sides keep talking. Well, it's been about 6 weeks since then, and here's what's changed. The players actually came down on their ask. They were demanding 30 to 31% of gross revenue back in December, with a salary cap around $10.5 million. Their latest proposal, which they sent on February 17th, dropped that to an average of 27.5% of gross revenue over the life of the deal, starting at 25% in the first year, with a salary cap under $9.5 million. That's a real concession. The players actually moved, and the league started trending towards the middle, kind of. They bumped their proposed salary cap from $5 million to $5.65 million. They made concessions on housing, offering one-bedroom apartments for minimum salary players in the first 3 years and studio apartments for developmental players. They added facility standards, pregnant player trade consent, eliminated marijuana testing, boosted 401k contributions, like real stuff here. Real progress was made. So both sides are moving, right? This should be good news, except it's not. Because the WNBA's response to the players' latest proposal was brutal. They put out a statement at midnight, calling the proposal unrealistic and saying it would cause hundreds of millions of dollars of losses. The league says the new player proposal would still result in $460 million in losses over the life of the deal. That's down from the $700 million they're projected under the December proposal. But $460 million is still a crazy number. So here's the math on where they actually stand. The players want 25% of gross revenue in year one. The league is offering about 14.5% of the gross. That's still a gap of over 10% on the fundamental structure of the deal. And the salary cap proposals are $9.5 million versus $5.65 million, almost $4 million apart. Both sides moved a little, but they're still playing two completely different games. And this is the part that's tripping everybody up. It's not just about the percentages. It's about what those percentages are calculated from. The players want a cut of gross revenue. That's all the money coming in before the league pays any bills. The league is offering a percentage of net revenue. That's the money left over after they subtract expenses. And this isn't some small technical difference. The WNBA says they're offering players more than 70% of net revenue. That sounds amazing, right? 70%? NBA players get 50%. These players are getting 70%. Except when you convert that 70% of net revenue into gross revenue terms, it comes out to less than 15%, because the NBA is profitable and the WNBA is not.
Is not. Let's just pause it right there.
That's the bottom line. They cannot. Again, this is the funniest thing about this league. I find ironic. With all the feminist activism, right? let's just pull back and see this from a marriage
business standpoint,
right? The NBA was founded 1996. WNBA was founded in 1996 by the NBA, right? And then many of the WNBA teams are owned by NBA ownership groups. The NBA infrastructure, if you call it that, built the league, right? I mean, which is fine because most new ventures, I guess, requires a certain amount of investment. But it does create an odd marriage, because you have this deeply connected feminist rhetoric league about independence and empowerment, while historically relying on the man to pay the bills.
He done gone to meddling, folks. Choir. Here he goes.
Look, I bring home the bacon, right? That's, I mean, if you want to cut it dry, if you want to just look at a marriage, the WNBA is married to the NBA, and the WNBA cannot divorce itself from the NBA at this point, because the WNBA cannot make a living. It just can't. Caitlin Clark does well. She gets endorsements, right? Because she's a star player, and the likes of Nike and those guys want to sign her like they sign anybody else. Not everybody in the league gets that, but the same thing happens in the NBA, right? Not everybody gets to sign. LeBron James' endorsements are different than the guy on the bench who's probably never going to see a
Landry
game.
Shamet.
Yeah, I didn't want to call names, but whoever. Right?
Landry Shamet is a good player.
But
The New York Knicks. Good shooter.
The WNBA just cannot get that kind of revenue. So with all of this feminist rhetoric and all this ideology that it's pushing out there about how independent they are and how empowered they are as women, at the end of the day, when the NBA says, look, I want a sandwich, I hate to put it that way, but go make me a sandwich.
Well, Jason, see, that's the problem, is that they tried to address this at the All-Star game this year, and Adam Silver was trying to come out and make some statements because they're trying to globalize their league and increase their profits. But the NBA is somewhat complicit in this. The silence of NBA players about some of the nonsense. Every once in a while, you'll hear an NBA player speak out about the inequity. Draymond Green, I think, spoke to this issue. But in some ways, the NBA should be saying, WNBA, go make us a sandwich. They should be saying that, but they're not saying that.
No,
and there's a lot of soy boy activity from Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, that should, if the WNBA can't fix themselves, which they obviously cannot, they need some help fixing this thing. And the NBA, who their hands are in the NBA's pocket, needs to address this situation. And I think everybody, this is the Donald Trump effect. You know, I didn't think we were going to talk about Donald Trump, but you know what? We got around to Donald Trump.
Why not?
Why not? I've heard a lot of black people come out and say, I don't know what you guys are talking about him being racist. I don't know whether he's racist or not. You'd have to look into the heart of a man to know if he's racist or not. I just know he wants you to get the hell off the couch and start to go to work. Black people, go to work. That's what he's about. And you know what? I don't disagree with him. I've heard other black people say that. And that's the Donald Trump effect. We know what he thinks because he'll tell you exactly what he thinks about you.
Yeah.
He's not pulling any punches. And this is what we respect, even though we don't like it sometimes.
Yeah.
Some people don't like it. I say some people don't like it. I like it. But this is what the NBA needs to do, the WNBA. Go in that kitchen and fix me a sandwich. Women, fix a sandwich. And we would respect, I feel like more people would respect the NBA because, look, I got comments coming in the comment section.
I bet you
see these comments that are coming in the comment section. You know what I'm talking about here. Look, the NBA and the WNBA should merge. You can't tell the difference anymore. Because the commissioner of the NBA is a woman now.
Yeah.
I mean, he's acting like one. He's a complete soy boy. And so I think that this issue is one that the NBA is somewhat complicit in, and they could probably fix a lot of this if they would just step up and say, no, we're not doing it that way. And by the way, here, if you can't fix your own league, here's what we need to do, because your hand is in our pocket and that we're losing money because of you guys. So here's what we're going to do to fix all this. We're going to market Caitlin Clark. Like, we have already gone over those solutions that will be able to fix this kind of thing.
Right.
Hey, Jason, can we watch a little bit more of this? Because I think they touch on some of what it is that we had to say here.
Tell us to be urgent. We've been moving and you haven't. And you know what's wild? I hate to say this, guys, but just trying to be unbiased here, she's actually got a point. If you look at the actual numbers, the players went from 40 to 27.5. That's a 12.5% drop. The league went from 13 to 14.5%. That's a 1.5% move. Now, obviously, those numbers aren't directly comparable because the league's operating from net revenue and the players are talking gross. But the optics look terrible for the WNBA. The players can say, we moved 12 points and they moved 1.5. And that's a pretty powerful negotiating talking point.
My work is easy because I use Click.
Sorry, I got to get these ads out of here. I can't pay for premium.
WNBA can't pay for premium.
So we got to do it like this.
Most people haven't even talked about this yet. When the WNBA says the players' proposal would cause $460 million in losses, or when they said the December proposal would cost $700 million, how do we know what's true? The answer is we don't. Not to get political, because I think it's quite funny when he does this, but it's kind of like the equivalent of when Trump comes out and says this.
Taking in almost $2 billion a day. We're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars. We'll continue to do so. Billions and even trillions of dollars.
They're talking about Donald Trump.
Last week they found $29 billion and they couldn't figure out where it came from. I said, check the tariff shelf.
So ESPN pointed this out right after the league put out that midnight statement. Annie Constable said, and I'm paraphrasing here, that the WNBA claimed hundreds of millions in losses, but has never shared its financial records or provided clarity on how they calculate those projected losses.
Yeah, they got an issue.
Yeah.
Houston, we got a problem. Some ain't adding up.
Yeah.
And I want to be sensitive when I say this. It goes back to that leadership issue that I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
When you or I are asked to give an account for our records,
Yeah.
people expect for us to give an account for our records. There's a lot of fabrication and mythical figuring going on in the WNBA. Projections, percentages, revenue, and all that can get a little overcomplicated for our audience if you're watching this and you're like, man, 1.5%, 12%. Let me boil it down to this. The WNBA is in shambles because they're not talking to one another because one side wants this, maybe unreasonable. The other side wants this and they're unreasonable. But you know who's going to win in this? The people who are paying the salaries.
Yeah.
They have the most leverage in bargaining in this. They always do. It's, we've seen strikes in the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball. So, at times they've brought in replacement players. So the teams are still playing the games, but, it's kind of a shell of its former self. People have the money, have a lot of bargaining power. And I would just back this conversation up to what it was that I was just ranting about. The NBA has a lot of bargaining power as well.
Oh, yeah. And, yeah. I don't think you just don't have much to work with when you can't produce a revenue on your own. When you're constantly having to, you're trying to negotiate behind the eight ball and you just can't. Because at the end of the day, the card that the NBA has and the card that the owners have is that you can't make it on your own. You need my money. You need all this. And it doesn't matter what the optics are. You could shut the WNBA down tonight, and there'd be a small group of people maybe pissed off, and the optics of the media and the legacy media would do all their thing. But give it a few weeks, and ain't nobody going to care at all. They just don't have I don't think they have the fan capital. They don't have the corporate capital. They don't have any of that to play. So they don't have much to bargain with here. So that's and it's always about the money. At the end of the day, it's always about the money.
Yes.
So men or women or whatever sport you're in, it's always about the money. And if you can't make it, then you're no good.
There's a
man or a woman. I don't care who you are.
I haven't looked into it, but there's a professional basketball league that I'm seeing advertised. I guess it's a competitor or it's a rival to the WNBA in some regard. Please understand that when I'm going off on a rant like this, it's not because I don't want women sports to flourish. If there was another league that came up and they were a competitor to the WNBA, kind of like Live Golf. I don't know if you follow golf any, and that whole thing when you've got players that are being kind of poached by an outside league and saying, hey, we'll pay you 10x what your league in the United States is paying you because we want top talent to come to our direction. Do you take the money? It comes down to money in a lot of these situations. But if there was a league that came up that embraced some of the worldview and values that we're talking about here, I think they would be a successful league.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a way to do women's sports in a way that honors women, enfranchises families, dignifies women.
Yeah.
Part of this objectification narrative is what some of the women in the WNBA have sort of gotten onto. And it's like, do you want to be taken seriously or not taken seriously? Is this just going to become second-rate roller derby?
Right.
Women's titties hanging out so we can just, get men to watch the games. I mean, what? No, what a credible family order. Savannah Bananas can do it, doggone it. Do it.
Yeah, and watching women beat the crap out of each other, whatever. Like, one of the things I enjoy about sports, when I watch, again, I go back to tennis. I like watching women's tennis inside the context of women's tennis.
I
don't like watching women play men. I don't like men playing women. It's not tennis. But watching women play and understanding how their game works and how the dynamics of their game works, it's fun. And when I, got that chance to play a little bit of that in college and see the women play, we were big supporters in watching it. And we would go watch women's basketball and be big supporters because it was women's basketball. We understand the dynamics of it. The WNBA is not trying to play women's basketball. They're trying to play NBA basketball, and they can't. It's not their game. It's a whole different game. And they need to learn to embrace that. Like you said, dignify women. There's nothing wrong with women playing basketball.
Nothing wrong with that. It's a great sport.
This whole narrative they're putting out is what makes it raunch. And it just needs to stop. And when you let activism take over a sport, this is why I caution the NBA and the NFL and men's sports to not let activism take over the sport. It's a bad place. One of the things I've loved about sports is I got to play with all kinds of cool people because we were united under football, or we were united under tennis, and we came together from all areas, rich and poor, black and white, all kinds of different people. And we came together for a cause to win and to play together and to win. And we had to overcome some of our differences, but we did so for the team. And we did so because we had good coaches and we had a common goal together. I think that's one of the things I love about sports. And so my word to the WNBA would be get away from this nonsense and just focus on who you are. I think maybe they're in an identity crisis. Maybe that's what it is. They really just don't know who they are and what they're about. Why don't you rally around your stars? Rally around those girls and let them be, and not your like crazy activist types. You're talented kid, your girls, you're talented women who are amazing at what they do. And who cares about, I get tired of the whole race narrative being pushed so hard. Just show me talent. Show me something amazing on the court. I think that's one of the reasons we love watching the NBA or even college basketball is the competition and the sportsmanship and the dynamics of what happens. You just never know it in any game, especially when they're actually competitive. I mean, when they're actually playing basketball, not just working to in the early season, it sucks, but towards the end of the season, it's great because they're all getting geared up. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And the whole dynamic changes. I'd love to see that women's basketball. I'd love to see that kind of thing happen. But as long as they're on this social activist bent, Black Lives Matter, LGBT, feminist type thing, I think it's going to be the death of them. And they don't have any negotiating power. And I don't think they're going to build a good franchise off of that model. And it's so bitter and so angry and so full of envy. Like, you got to get rid of that. There are rules in the NBA and the NFL about things that, and sometimes, the NFL gets blasted for being the no fun league, and I get it. And I kind of get annoyed at all the rules. But if you notice that they put a real tight line on their image for a reason, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. Because
It matters.
It matters. And when you have the WNBA not putting those tight boundaries on it, this is what you get. And it is, I don't know, it's not something I want to encourage my girls to be a part of. And that sucks. That's too bad.
Yeah, I think that's maybe where I would land the plane at as well today. You got any takeaways for the church?
Yeah. Sports are awesome. They're not ultimate, though. I mean, at the end of the day, whether we're in politics, sports, churches, or workplaces, the same temptations follow us everywhere: pride, envy, and jealousy, and selfish ambition. And you'll see it in the WNBA. You'll see it all over. But we know that the gospel speaks something different. And so a kingdom where our worth is not built on outperforming others, maybe, but maybe built on being who we are, made in God's image, being okay with who we are in God's image, whether you're a man or a woman, operating within those boundaries and loving each other and in our redemption in Christ. I think that changes everything. And I think what we see here is women's sports are phenomenal and they're fun to watch. And there's a lot of cool things going on. But when they're taken over by corrupt ideologies that don't understand how God is wired and made men and women different, and who don't adopt, at least within the framework of his creation, you get this nonsense. And so I think the church needs to be weary of such leagues. And I think at the same time, we need to be weary of our own hearts. Because the same pride and jealousy and selfish ambition we see in them, it's the same thing in us. And so trying to be gentle, trying to be not so critical, but I have such a problem with the WNBA's character and leadership that it'd be hard for me to support anything like that. But I believe there could be a league out there that could be worth watching, because women are very talented athletically.
Yes, sir. Our generation, our world is shaped by the stories that give us hope. Whether it be Marvel, DC, movies, whatever it is, we love stories that give us hope. Ultimately, that's what the world is craving for. Sometimes we'll try to act like that's not what we want, but you can tell in the recent series, past few years, the Marvel series just absolutely has sucked because they stopped telling stories that gave people hope, and they started introducing weird characters. And I'm using this as a backdrop to be able to talk about the WNBA and biblically to get us to the point where the most redemptive story that has ever been told, which is the redemptive story, is the story of Jesus Christ and what it is that he did when he came to rescue us from our sin. There's crisis there in that story. There's imminent defeat. There's failure. And then there's the calling that Jesus has at great sacrifice to himself. And when we see a league that is steeped in pride, false narratives, unbiblical worldview, it sounds like the leadership and the ownership is just lying. They're just outright lying. These are not stories that motivate and grab our hearts. These are not characters in a very real sense, not fictional, not movie, but these are not characters that grab our imagination to say we can be like them, we can become them. Because what would we be becoming if we were to become like the WNBA and the way that they're presenting themselves? And so I think Jason and I struck the chord that image does matter. It does matter the way that one presents the product of the WNBA, and they've not done a good job of that, because they're not stories that motivate our hearts, and they're not stories that inspire us, and they're not stories that cause us to have hope in a hopeless generation. There is one story that does, and that's the message of Jesus Christ. The kingdom of God, as it expands and touches people, every tribe, every tongue, every nation, bringing them to the place where no matter where they're from, whether it be the slums of India, the favelas of Rio de Janeiro, the backwoods of North or Central Texas, you can have hope and you can have a relationship with Jesus Christ because of what it is that he's done. And so stories that motivate us, stories that inspire us. And if there's people from the WNBA that watch this, most importantly, the commissioner and the leadership of your league, I hope that you guys, one, know Jesus as your Lord and Savior, but two, begin to tell these stories that will grab the hearts and attention and minds of the people whom you desire to watch your product. Where's my button?
Push it.
Can't find my button. All right, Jason. From an undisclosed location in McKinney, Texas.
Ah, you're back home. Ish.
The promised land.
That's good.
Start seeing signs for Buc-ee's all around.
That's awesome.
Well, praise the Lord. Great episode. Fireworks. And we are out of here. See you next week.
God bless you, bro.
All right. All right.